Okay, I know everyone does a video on substitute teachers, but you see, my school is pretty crazy, to put it simply. In my school, there'll be subs that everybody hates and subs that everybody loves. There's no in-betweens, and the entire class shares the same opinions on that teacher. I'll start out with a sub who everyone liked. We'll call her geography teacher. Look, I wrote this part of the script at almost 12:30 at night, leave me alone. Anyways, everyone already knew that the ordinary geography teacher wasn't in on that day, so we were expecting a substitute teacher. When we walked in, we weren't really expecting much. She had a decent vibe, she was friendly, all that ordinary stuff. I noticed that everybody was on their phone and weren't being told to either put them away or to hand them in, so I decided to just pull my phone out. And out of all the things you could possibly do while showing your phone during class, I decided to just catch up on some chores. Yeah, that's it. Things started getting a little bit crazy and people were just blasting random sounds from TikTok, and one prominent sound people played was a mildly inappropriate sound. The best part, the teacher didn't actually care, she just laughed along with it. But it got to the point where the class was making too much noise though, and outside on the hallway will be full of staff members who are there to just, well, I guess keep things in order. So a teacher walked in and everybody was basically going along with each other, nobody was snitching or anything, things were going pretty great. But on the occasions when a member of staff would walk in the blink of an eye everybody was running and it's like their phones didn't even exist. But even the teacher went along with it. That's how you know you have a great substitute teacher. Now, I remember towards the end of the lesson I started handing out these work booklets so that if anybody walked in, then it would look like way more legit. At first, people thought I was giving them out so the class would actually do work, but I explained and it made sense. This next one, I actually felt bad for him. I don't remember his name, but if he finds this, then I'm sorry, dude. Our English teacher had left, and we didn't have a teacher for a few weeks, so every lesson we'd have a sub for a while. On 2 days in a row, we had this one guy. I'll call him Walter because he dressed like Walter White from Breaking Bad. The reason why I'd feel bad was because he was one of those subs who would try and speak in teacher class but nobody would listen at all. The entire lesson was just him trying to get us to be quiet, but nothing ever came of it, and he was actually starting to get worked up because he did not know how to get the class under control. I didn't do much work. I was talking to my friend, so I was pretty guilty of not really helping the situation that much. But it got to a point where another class was actually able to make him cry somehow. Like, how bad does a class have to be able to make a teacher cry? Like, that is just crazy. One of my friends actually talked to him, like, outside of class, and he said that he's such a nice guy as well. He tried, man, and needless to say, he was the one sub I felt genuinely sorry for. Another time, also in English class, we had a sub who was a fairly normal looking guy, greeting us, asking for names, all that. But the thing that wasn't normal was how he called a girl sweetie or love. Even after one girl said she was uncomfortable with it, he still kept calling her those names. Now, maybe it'll be a little less weird if they're family or if the girls were older, but we were 13 at the time, and some middle-aged guy calling 13-year-old girls who are complete strangers love and sweet isn't really normal. And the thing is, he wasn't the only teacher we had who did that. And we had that second guy for a whole school year as our IT teacher. And a couple times that IT teacher was accused of being sexist. If I was in charge of that school, I would definitely be double-checking that these people don't have any hidden criminal history on their backs. But luckily we only had him once and he wasn't calling the boys those names, and even I felt uncomfortable. So after year 8, my class didn't have a Spanish teacher for a very long time. I'm talking a couple of months. We had 2 people who were supposed to be our permanent Spanish teachers, but they both left only literally after a few weeks. During that one time we'd have this reoccurring sub who I'll call Professor Espanol. I call him that, but he was actually an Irish guy who didn't even know any Spanish. It's like, what's the point in that? Why would you get some Irish guy who doesn't know a single bit of Spanish to teach Spanish? It doesn't make sense. Now, he was a fragile old guy who would also try to control the class but just couldn't quite get it. But at the same time, people really didn't like him. In terms of how he teaches, I don't really have that much to say about him, but when it comes to stories from in his classes, oh boy. We had him as a maths sub once, since the maths teacher was off for a few weeks, and I don't know what happened, but this one kid in my class who we'll call Terry started yelling at the girls behind him. He began shouting very non-PG things at them, while rapidly throwing paper balls at them, until he got up, still shouting, picked up the chair and almost threw it at the girls. The whole class started shouting, Terry, don't do it, put the chair down. And as the sub was shouting his name, he turned around, screamed, what? And threw the chair near the sub's direction, and it thankfully missed and went towards the desk. Now imagine how bad that could have gotten if he had actually thrown it to the direction of the teacher, who's a fragile old man. Yeah, not great. Pretty recently we had a sub for history class. He was a football/soccer coach and people thought he was alright. He had a pretty good energy, and for the first time in that school's history, we learnt things about what the difference is in how much you can earn by getting different grades are, and also some stuff like what democracy is and the history of it. Whilst we were also talking about history stuff, he mentioned Sabaton. As soon as I heard Sabaton, a very epic band that does heavy metal about historical events, I instantly put him on my favourite subs list. Now, at one point he asked what we all wanted to do as jobs, and at the time I had no idea that I was going to end up doing animation, so I said that I wanted to be a guitarist or a bassist, which is still true today. He asked what kind of music I'm into, and I said bands like Pantera, Primus and Metallica, still my top favourites. My guy had actual metal knowledge. He mentioned Pantera's Far Beyond Strength album, and I was actually impressed. I had a chat with him after class about Sabaton and all that stuff, and I left the class feeling happy that someone else had the same interest in music, because being into metal isn't exactly common, not in the UK at least. I guess in conclusion, substitutes just got bullied if they didn't let us do whatever we wanted to. That does it for this one. My schedule won't really be that great, since by the time this will be finished and released, I'll be back in school. I'll try my best to work as hard as I can, so stay tuned for the next one, because even with school I'm not going anywhere. See you in the next one.